Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Spartan Sports Report. Joining us will be Leah Fishman, who is head coach of the girls soccer team at CHS. We'll be speaking with Leah in just a few minutes, but right now, Sam, let's talk about football. And Friday night, South Dearborn, Spartans came back, still looking for that first W.
Tough loss down there. I really felt, Fran, that was a game they could win.
Mm-hmm.
Coaching staff did too, but turnovers named the game again. 5 fumbles and South Dearborn able to turn some of that into points.
Yes.
It was a sloppy night.
Yes.
And they coughed the ball up, I think, because of that, because of the rain. But South Dearborn only fumbled one time, so you can't blame it all on the weather. That kids just have to be able to grab a hold of that ball and keep possession. I thought the kids played hard. They had a couple opportunities. They were down the red zone a couple times, but just couldn't get any more than 7 points on the board. I thought, though, there were periods, Fran, that defensively that they looked better, that they were able to keep South Dearborn from scoring for long lengths at a time. I think one time there in the second quarter that it was very, very late in the quarter when they did score. So defensively, while it could be better, I think that there were some bright spots there.
That's good. That's good to see that there is some improvement. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, it sure is. And, they got to get right back to it this week. And I know that Coach Kelly and all his staff be working hard because this week we go over, it's one of the teams we love to hate when we go over and take on the Rushville Lions in a big EIAC match and at Henshaw Field. It's the War on 44 traveling trophy. So a lot to play for, a lot of pride to play for as both teams come in winless.
Right, 0-4 Rushville. They lost to Milan 37-21, Newcastle 7-3, Franklin County 44-20, Batesville 44-7. They've been giving up an average of 33 points a game. They've been scoring an average of 13. And the Spartans 0-4, losing to Richmond 49-20. Franklin County 50-13, so that's their only common opponent. They both lost to Franklin County. The Spartans also lost to Greensburg 26-21, as you mentioned, South Dearborn 27-7. That gives the Spartans an average of 33 points a game, so that's the same that's allowing by Rushville. But the Spartans have scored an average of 15 points a game. So it should be close.
Very evenly matched this week, and we'll have to see what happens. It's, one of them's streak's going to come to an end and get their win.
Right.
Hopefully it's the kids from Connersville.
Again, well, as you pointed out, turnovers, and whenever there's a turnover, you lose a chance to score, and you give the other team an opportunity to score, and they usually take advantage of it. So that's a big thing, and I know Coach Kelly works on that very much.
And that's every time I interview him, I know you too, that that's been his point of emphasis.
Number one.
All week long in practice was limit the turnovers.
Yes.
It's that way in any sport.
Oh, absolutely.
You turn it over,
basketball,
you give, we're going to talk soccer here in a little bit. I'm sure it's the same thing in soccer. That way you give the opponent a chance to score. So you got to take care of the ball.
So this Friday night's an important game for both Spartans and Rushville, and who wants it the most, I guess?
I think you're right. And I think the next 2 weeks that good opportunities for the Spartans to get in the win column. They got Rushville on the road, and then next week they'll be back here for homecoming against Broad Ripple.
Yes.
A 2A school that I think that too can be a very winnable game for Coach Kelly and the kids.
Leah, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You are soccer coach at CHS, and this is year number what for you?
This is my second year.
Second year, okay. How are your girls doing?
They're doing okay. They're not doing as well as I had hoped for or we had anticipated from last year, but we did have some major losses from last year. We did lose 5 seniors.
Yes.
2 starting players in addition to those 5 seniors. One of them being our goalie. She left moving to Franklin County. She transferred schools, so that was kind of tough for us. And so trying to find a new goalie, trying to find some new starters for those 5 seniors that left. So that was a tough start to the year. So
right. You played 2 40-minute halves. in your game. Okay. You have 11 members on your team.
11 members on the field at a time,
10,
yes, and
10
then
with the goalie.
10 on the field and then a goalie. And I like to keep my roster as large as I can. So I have subs because I tell my girls, you know, I'd like you to use as much energy as you can. You know, if you get tired, perfect. I'll take you out and I'll sub you in, you know. I'd rather you know, use all your energy and be tired and, you know, make your time on the field worthwhile, and then I'll, you know, let someone else have a turn.
Is goalie the toughest position to play?
It's definitely the most demanding. It's definitely the most mentally challenging. But I think all of the positions are pretty challenging.
I'm sure
but
they are.
Definitely, there's a lot of pressure. You have to be able to read the whole game and kind of see where players are going to go, how the play is going to play out.
It's developing.
And you have to really be able to
anticipate
what's going on. And you're really like the third coach. You're the coach that's on the field.
Okay.
And we really tell our goalie, you know, and we tell our players, whatever the goalie says, you know, almost trumps what the coach says. Because the goalie sees it from, you know, the player's view. So I only see, you know, what's happening from the sideline. So I might not be able to see what's happening at the other end of the field where the goalie can. And so if she's saying, you know, mark this player, you know, she sees the player's open. Mark that player. You know, I might not see that they're open because I might be watching a different part of the play. And so a lot of times we rely on our goalie to be, you know, that third coach.
To be that captain of the team.
Yeah, and so it's really important that we have, you know, a really great goalie. And I was really fortunate to have a player from last year. She was actually one of our field players who came to me at the, you know, beginning of the summer and said, you know, Coach, I've played goalie before. I'll step up to be goalie. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of nervous, you know, because I didn't know any different. I'd only seen her play on field, and she stepped in goal that first practice. I was like, whoa, like, where were you all last year? So I was really excited, and she's been doing really well, you know.
Sam, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be a goalie.
I don't think so. It's a tough position, and we were talking before we went on the air about it being a non-contact sport, but there is a lot of contact and not much body protection.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And my girls always laugh because I say, you know, you could be aggressive, and referees a lot of times they'll give you a lot of leeway to be aggressive. And I say, you know, I'll pay for whatever kind of plastic surgery that you need to get in the end. You know, I will work my butt off to do that for you, but be aggressive. And that's the main part of the game. You know, referees do give you a lot of leeway to push and shove a little. I mean, obviously they don't want any blood drawn, but, you know, we want to see you be aggressive. We want to see you, you know, go for the ball, and we want to see you, you know, we say attack the player, but not actually physically attack them, but, you know, go for the ball, make sure that you take your action when you can and take the ball away from the players.
Talked about the goalie. What are the names of some of the other positions that on the field?
So you have your defenders, and so one of our defenders is a sweeper, and she is essentially our last resort. She stands basically at the back of the defensive line, right in front of the goalie. She's usually our center defensive player. Then we'll have midfield, and they do the most running. And so they'll be in the center of the field. We have a defensive mid who plays mostly back towards the goal. And then we have an offensive mid, and they will run up more towards midfield and towards the opposing goal. And then we have our forwards who push up more, and they're usually trying to score. And then we have our striker. And our striker is typically our fastest and most footwork skilled player who will really try to, you know, dribble around the other players and try to get that ball in the back of the net. So.
You talked about, subbing in. Do you have to call timeout to sub, or can you?
No. So what'll happen if we want to sub? Most times the way we'll do it is I try to send them in groups of 2 or 3. I don't want to do one at a time just because it's not really worth it for them then. But you send them to a designated spot by the referee, usually at the midfield line by the stat table. And when it becomes, depending on the type of dead ball, so if it is a throw-in, so if it is your possession, then you can sub in. If it's the other team's possession and you're the only team subbing in, they won't sub you in. There's a lot of weird rules. If it's a corner kick, they might sub you in, and then if the center ref doesn't see you, then you have to wait until they see you and call you in. But we don't ever have to call a timeout to do it. It's when the ref calls the play dead, essentially to bring you in. The other times are if there's an injury on the field. If you stop the clock, we have to sub in. There's no option. I can sub that player back in if she has been cleared, but I have to pull her off the field and sub someone in.
In football, there are penalties. In basketball, there are fouls. Are there penalties or fouls in soccer?
Yes.
And what are the consequences?
Typically, you can get a direct or indirect kick. Those direct or indirect kicks really depend on the type of foul. And those allow you to basically take back possession of the ball and kick it towards the opposing goal. You can have a penalty kick, which is if you have a penalty in, we call it the box, but it's the square that is around the goal. And penalty kicks, usually, if you've trained your players the right way, will result in a goal, hopefully. Or if you've trained your goalie the right way, will not result in a goal, depending on what side of the penalty kick you're on. But you have some penalties will result in the yellow or infamous red card. We try to stay away from those as much as possible, but I have some girls that will get a yellow card and it means nothing to them, and I have girls who will get a yellow card and it will be the end of the world and they will cry the entire bus ride home, and their life is over. But I tell them, listen, every great soccer player gets a yellow card once or twice in their life, and that's okay. Every great soccer player gets at least one red card in their career, and that's it. No more than one. After that, that's it. We don't want any more, because eventually you'll get ejected from the game and from competition. And for our girls, if they accumulate so many, they'll be ejected from sectionals, regionals, and those things. And
When it's really important.
When it's really important, and for these girls, I want them to have a great opportunity to play in those games. And so I try to tell them, listen, if you're going to get those cards, get them at the beginning of the season. Serve your penalties, at the beginning, and be able to play in sectionals.
And I think one other thing that's interesting about soccer that I've at least noticed, that in most sports where there's a clock, the clock runs down to 0. In soccer, it goes the other way. Am I wrong with that?
It depends on the clock. Our clock here in Connersville runs down, and most of the clocks run down. But when you play in the professional leagues, they do run up, which is always very interesting. And I actually watched a professional game on Saturday. I'm sorry, with a friend, and she actually collects tickets for me all the time here at the high school. And she goes, "Why is it that our clock at the high school counts down, but this one counts up?" And I said, "Just the way that it works. I don't know. Maybe the clocks are just made different.
Sure.
I don't know, but yeah, our clock counts down, but the other clocks count up. We typically don't have added time for injury. Once the 40 minutes are done, it's done. Whereas in a professional league game, they'll have on top of their 45-minute half, if they'll add minutes for stoppage time or injury time. We don't do that in the high school league. We just 40 minutes done, you have a 5 or 10 minute halftime, and then you play your second 40 minutes, and then depending on what happens and who you're playing, you might get overtime, you might not. So
Interesting.
yeah, there are a lot of crazy rules.
I thought you might talk about your roster a little bit.
Sure, absolutely.
I brought it with you. Might mention
My beautiful
your girls. Yes,
Yeah.
It's a great picture. It's in the program that the folks will receive when they come to a game.
Yeah, no, these are honestly, being only my second year in Connersville and my second year coaching, they're wonderful girls. And I have a great manager too, who is not a girl, but we like to nickname him girl names sometimes. But my girls are great. I have awesome seniors who they take care of so many things for me. I'm so scatterbrained since I teach during the day and I'm all over. They're always the ones texting in the group message, don't forget you need this uniform, or don't forget to bring this snack for the bus, or don't forget this, don't forget that. And they laugh at me because they're really the other coaches. But they're like, Coach, don't forget you have to tell them this after practice. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, oh yeah, I got to tell them that. So they're just great girls. But I mean, I could go through.
Sure, go ahead and mention their names.
Okay.
That'd be fine.
Okay, so I'll start. I guess we'll go through the top. So I have
Okay.
freshman Cicely Bowling, and she usually plays offense for us. We have Lauren Thompson, who plays defense. Lily Ronan plays defense. Holly Hoffman typically plays offense, but we're testing her out on the defense side. See, she doesn't really like it right now, but I'm going to teach her to like it. She'll learn. Allie Angeles, she plays midfield. She's our offensive midfielder, so she does the most running. She is definitely getting the most workout during the game. Kelsey Smith, and she is typically offense, usually a forward. She's trying to get that first career goal, so hopefully she'll get that soon. We have Whitney Owens, who is our goalie currently. So she's been doing a really great job, and I can only see great things coming from her in the future, so I'm excited. Tori Bostwick plays defense. Told me she's interested in playing some offense, so we'll see in the next few games if we can get her up there. We have Kelsey Coulter, who plays defense and is one of our backup goalies. Harley McQueen is usually defense, but is also trying to be another backup goalie for us. So
Good.
it's always good to have multiple goalies
Sure,
because
absolutely.
we kind of go through them pretty quickly. We have Alexis Johnson, who is defense and midfield. Kristen Schuler, who is defense. Elise Bottomley, she is one of our all-around players. We kind of just, wherever we stick her, she kind of just does it.
Good.
And she hasn't complained yet, so I'm going to kind of keep doing it until she starts complaining. And the same with Maddie Gregory. The two of them I kind of just put them wherever I want, and they haven't complained yet. And they're really versatile, and it's great because the two of them are like inseparable friends. And so they play off of each other very well. So
Yes.
I very rarely have to give them direction. I usually just say, you two go,
Get it done.
and just do what I tell you. And as of right now, Maddie Gregory is our top scoring player. She has the most goals for the team. So
Good.
So as a freshman, that is a very big deal. And
Yes,
so she's
yes.
very excited about that, and I'm excited for her. Caitlin Lohman is one of our forwards. Emily Judd is on defense. Gretchen Ritter is defense. Jordan Harris, she plays a little bit of everything, defense and striker. Reese Drew, she does defense. She's trying to convince me to let her play goal, but I have not allowed that to happen yet. Maddie Vest, she hasn't been able to play too much. She's been injured for a little bit, so we're waiting to see, but possibly defense, maybe some midfield. I can see her being a bit aggressive, so I like that. So that offensive position could be a good place for her. Sam Snyder is on defense. Stephanie Lane is on offense, and Molly Rose is on defense. And those are my
Okay,
girls.
your four seniors that you'll be losing in graduation, who are those gals?
So my four seniors are Sam Snyder, Reese Drew, and Jordan Harris, and Madison Vest.
And you got a helper, an assistant coach, and he is?
And that is Chris Bottomley.
Okay.
And he's great. He's running practice for me today. I totally appreciate him. And it's funny because he coaches
The JV? Okay.
He helps with the JV girls soccer, but he also coaches JV boys basketball. And so a lot of times I have to remind him, these are not the boys. Like, they're a little bit more sensitive. You know, they can't have...
He's pretty intense.
He is very intense, and I can get intense too, but there's different intensities between boys and girls, so it's really funny sometimes.
Okay, this week you're busy. Tuesday, you go to Shelbyville.
We go to Shelbyville
And
tomorrow.
you're home Thursday to Anderson, 5:30 start.
Yes.
Fans come out and watch. And on Saturday, you go to Batesville.
Yes.
So some traveling this week.
yeah, it's definitely going to be a busy week for us. And I told my girls, make sure you get a lot of rest, drink lots of water, and, just make sure that they're ready to go. Wash their uniforms. 'Cause that's the worst on the bus.
You run all the time in soccer. How are these kids keep in training?
We run them a lot during practice. And we try to make sure that, we try to explain to them, you run at least 7 miles in a game.
No fooling.
Yep.
Wow.
So between stopping, going, with the ball, without the ball,
Sure.
running on the field, off the field, warm-ups, cool down. It's about 7 miles. And so for the girls, we try to get at least, half of that in during a practice, if not more. And so during a practice, obviously, it's a bit more intense because we have to cram it in.
Sure.
So they don't like it as much. But I go, girls, you do the same, if not more, during a game. They're like, yeah, but it's spread out, and we like games more than practice.
more fun, right?
It's more fun at games than it is at practice.
Sure. You said your second year. Where's your hometown?
I'm actually from New York. I'm from, so I'm originally from Farmingdale, New York. It's on the south shore of Long Island. So,
Okay.
so I'm kind of far from home.
And where'd you go to college?
I went to college at IU in Bloomington.
Oh, okay. Is that where you learned, or did you play soccer in high school?
I played club soccer my entire life.
Okay.
In high school, I swam competitively. So it was kind of weird because in New York, swimming and soccer are the same season in high school, and you can't do two sports.
Yes.
And so for me, it was much easier to be on the swim team and be competitive, whereas on soccer I wouldn't have been able to be as competitive. And so I decided I'd rather be competitive on my club team and stay with my friends there and swim with my friends at school.
Okay.
And so I got to experience both sports.
Sure.
So it was nice. I really liked it.
What do you teach at CHS?
I teach special ed.
Okay.
And so right now, this year I'm teaching reading, and I do a lot with inclusion and making sure that other teachers are getting the support they need to help their students.
Sam, basketball's coming up. I think we have an update on Spartan Bowl.
We do.
And the new floor.
I'm anxious to see this.
See the progress. I am too. I think our viewers will be happy to see what's going on there at 20th and Grand.
I think so, but it's certainly been a pleasure getting to know Leah.
Thank you so much.
It certainly has been, Leah. Thanks for joining us
Thank
this
you.
evening. Best of luck on the rest of the season.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay.
Spartan Bowl. It's an iconic gym, one of the first of its kind. Built in 1958, it has housed state champions.
And missed it, and the rebound comes off the Connersville, and the game is over. The Connersville Spartans have just won the state championship.
Mr. Basketballs, Miss Basketballs, and Butler Greats.
The tap out, Howard, at the buzzer, count it! The Butler did it again!
Over the years, Spartan Bowl has become a destination of entertainment for the community. A historic venue, it has held graduations, sectionals, regionals, the Spartan Wrestling Classic, gymnastics state champions, and various events. In Connersville, Spartan Bowl is more than a basketball gym. It's an embodiment of the heart of our community. Over the years, the drainage system has slowly eroded, causing flooding on the bowl floor. And in addition, the floor has reached the end of its viable life. To save the floor and fix the drainage issues, Athletic Director Brent Duncan moved to replace it.
Well, the original floor is from 1958, so 57 years worth of use has been a really good thing for the basketball team. But a few years back, we had some water issues, and plus the floor company decided there probably wasn't enough wood on the old floor to do another sanding without possibly snapping some of the grooves or the tongue and groove boards. Then you take a chance of having it collapse in the middle of the court, and then you have bigger issues than what we have right now. So the school board about 5 to 10 years ago, somewhere in that area, started thinking ahead about when we're going to replace it. And thankfully, it's this year. So as you can see behind me, if you're watching on the video, they're laying down the last part of the floor for the actual new floor. So pretty white, pretty good looking from my standpoint. Finances was all through capital projects improvements, which is from the school. I can't exactly tell you how the funding formulas work, but they've been making provisions over a course of time, setting money aside for this project, so this wouldn't hit them all at one time. So they've been preparing and doing their financial work with the Jamie Kellen-Tollett of the financial officer of the school corporation and Dr. Hodges, superintendent, making arrangements for replacing this for X number of years, and I can't tell you exactly how many that is. Well, we're hoping it's fixed. They guarantee it's going to be better. So if you've not had a chance to look at it or see, they took out all the draining system underneath, re-tiled it, re-drained it, re-rocked it with river rock or number 8 gravel or whatever number it was. And at that point, then they put a liner over the top, a water barrier liner. Then they poured cement over the top of that. And then they put another liner over the top of that before they put the wood down. So hopefully that will help keep the water issues, if there are any more, away. Hopefully the new draining system will work great and we won't have a water issue ever. I'm hoping that it's just taking care of it. You know, we had a very wet spring and there's not been any water standing down in the bottom before we started putting the floor after they put tiles in. So hopefully wherever the water issue was, I want to say 5 or 6 ago when Miss Noble was still here, and then just a little bit last year, there was a little bit of the mother water issue. We haven't noticed that at this time, and we've had a pretty wet spring, you know, and we've had some heavy rains lately, and knock on wood, haven't seemed to have any more water issues. Well, tentatively, I think the target date is October 7th. Of course, you know how things go. Hopefully they're a little ahead of schedule, maybe. I would say after this part right here, the next part will be actually sanding the floor down so it's smooth. Then it'll be a matter of coming in and painting the, you know, the red trim back on and the Connersville on each end and the centerpiece, and then just putting the seal on it and then letting it dry. So I think the target date right now is October 7th, which is nice. It gives us 12 days before opening practice for girls basketball. Currently, it's going to go back just like it looked. You know, you have the opportunity to change it. I'm kind of a traditionalist guy, so I kind of like the look of the old traditional basketball floor where there's not a lot of graphics all over it. Now, in 7 or 8, 9 years, when they do the first sanding, maybe then you look at changing the graphics a little bit. Hopefully, we got some numbers to put in the middle of the floor with the 72 and 83 teams. Whether it's by the girls or the boys, it doesn't matter to me. It'd be great. But maybe then we can look at a design, take a couple years in advance when we know we're going to sand it for the first time, and then maybe think about how we might want to change the graphics a little bit. Nope, it's not going to. It's all going to be the same look all across the floor. Outside, you know, the red outside the court itself and the white lines and stuff, but everything's going to be exactly it might look a little lighter only because it's a newer wood, and I think the staining when you put the seals on them are now water-based and not oil-based, so it shouldn't yellow the wood as much as they continue to keep it in good shape with all the sealing they do to it. You think of all the history that's on the old floor, you hope that for the next 60 years there's a lot more tradition, a lot more history that gets taken place, and people can identify with just coming to the games. And you know, you sit around in the top. If you're just not here to watch the ball game, you can listen to people talk about what happened here and what happened then. And as people have bought pieces of the wood, they want this piece because this happened over here. So somebody identifies with the floor so differently than you or I do. You know, the Spartan piece wanted a piece of the red sideline because they dance over there. You know, somebody wanted a place where Coach Malby stood, so he just wanted a piece of red floor so he could tell them that's where Coach Malby stood. So, you know, different people have different reasons, and hopefully those traditions and those memories will carry over for the next 70 years, hopefully with that floor down there.
Come out and support your Spartans and make new memories on the new bowl floor Saturday, November 7th at girls basketball versus Cardinal Ritter.
Looking good.
It sure is, and it's good to see that wood down. It's,
Yes.
The worst of it is behind them, I'm sure, and so just getting it sealed and getting the graphics back on it's the big thing now.
One final night, a little bit about football. I'm not sure if you guys heard this or not about Pennsylvania. There was a game on Friday night, and one of the teams scored 90 points, and you would think that they would win, but they lost 107 to 90.
Oh, my.
One kid scored 10 touchdowns. He ran for 722 yards. That must have been quite a game.
Yeah.
It was Meadville and Du Bois in Pennsylvania. So
That would be a fun one to call.
that must have been a wild night.
It had to be. I wonder how long that took because, you know, every time you score, it's like a timeout afterwards.
Sure,
So.
right? Yeah, it was something else. Well, Leah, again, thanks for joining us tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it and win some games here.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you so much for having me.
And Sam, let's win one Friday.
We'll do that. You can join Dave Pollard and me on KMX 106.9 for all the action.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us here on the Spartan Sports Report. We'll be back next week.